Friends, welcome back to the web development tutorial. In the previous video, we talked about the header elements, the paragraph elements, the break, and like the void and stuff like that. We also talked about the anchor elements and how we can have a hyperlink, right, in the website. We also talked about the images, how we can add different types of images to a website and the different attributes like source, alternative, and like how we can change the size of the image, right? In the previous video, which is the most recent one, we also talked about buttons and tables, right? We created some buttons, but we obviously didn't really have any action for those buttons because like we said, we're going to need JavaScript for that, and that's going to come in like later videos. But we saw how we can create something so that like the website is going to look cool. And we also talked about the tables and how we can add different rows, how we can have headers and like just like simple data for cell contents, right? In today's video, as I promised you, we're going to go talk about the form element, right? So the form element, just like what we've been learning before, it's an opening tag form and followed by a closing tag form, and then a bunch of stuff that goes in between, right? Well, depending on the user input, there will be an input element inside the form tag, right? And the most common attributes for the input elements are the type of the input element, which basically says what is the type of the data that the user is going to input, right? It could be a text, it could be like a phone number, it could be a date or something like that. I'll show you in a second. And the other attribute is name. So you assign a name to, to your input. And also like there is a placeholder, which actually is used to have like a default value. We will see all these in practice in just a few moments. And the one last thing that I also wanted to say is that you can also precede the input elements with a label that basically just like adds a label to your input element, right? And it's really recommended to use the 4 attributes in the label tag, right? We will see all of these in a second, but this is the 4 element in a nutshell, so you have an idea of what we want to talk about now. Let's go to our VS Code, and we can actually start coding here. So as we said, we want to start with a form, right? We have an open tag, we have a closing tag, and that's about it, right? And now everything else goes in between. So the first thing that we want to do is to have an input. You see, as soon as I put input here, it created this box thing for me, right? And the next thing that I want to do, I want to define a type. So type equals, and you can see here, all the different types which are available to you. The button, checkbox, color, date and time. Like for example, date, if you just want to have like a date, for example, I don't know, January 24th or something, in date and time. If you have, let's say, a meeting or something for a specific day as a specific time or something. If it's an email address, if it's an image, if it's a password, and, text, time, the URL, everything is here. So I'm just going to go with text for now. And then, yeah, so this is the input. And then like you can basically just like close that here and be like, okay, that's my input element, right? And then like you can just go here and start typing, right? But as we said, we can also like give it a name too. So you can actually continue this and be like name equals, let's say this is going to be, I don't know, name. So like first name, for example. So first name, or just like F name for first name, right? I'm just going to go F name. And that's about it. So we have something, right? We have a box and the user can input something. Again, we're not going to do anything with the information that is provided in the form because that's going to require JavaScript and some of the languages which we don't really want to talk about it just yet. We just want to see how we can create boxes and like be interactive with the user, right? And as I said, it's always a good practice to have like a label, right? If I go label here, right, and it closes it, and whatever I put here, you can see it puts it right there. So I can just go, this is my first name. And it says, okay, first name is that box. Another good practice that I told you is to use the for attribute, right? So I'm just gonna go for equals, I don't know, like this is, for example, for f name, and then for first name, it doesn't have to be the same as this one, obviously. But once you do that, it's always like usually followed by these. So you go here and go ID equals, and then you have to use the same name that you use here. So I go f name here and I go f name here. These two have to be the same, but they don't have to be the same as this guy in here. I was hesitant to talk about, these for and ID thing because we were going to see that in the next video when I talk about the CSS stuff. This is more of a CSS thing, right? But I'm going to use that because when you click on this name after adding for, right? If I click here, it's going to select the box for me and put the cursor in the box so I can start writing. So it is actually like to make it look pretty, so it's not really just the structure and the HTML that we wanted to talk about. But like I thought this little like stride, it's not going to hurt anybody. So as simple as that, you have a box and you obviously have like a label for your box and you can input your information here. And let's say we want to like keep adding them. So I'm just going to go here and like add another one and go, this is last name instead of first name. I'm just going to go L name. That's also text, L name, and L name. So this name attribute, as I said, when the information is sent, it's going to use this name. It says, okay, like whatever the user puts in there is going to be, you can think of it as being assigned to a variable named f underscore name or L underscore name. Anyway, so that's about it. Like we have two. If I click here, it's going to select this for me. If I click here, it's going to select this box for me. And if you want to break it down, you can obviously just go break. So put it in the next line. Usually what people do is that like they go use something like div, right? And so what div does is that, so it makes a division. So everything has its own thing now. So if I put this guy in here now, you can see like it makes it nice. So if I just like get rid of that, you don't really need this. And I'm just going to do the same thing here. Obviously you don't have to, but this is like the common practice. Like people do it this way usually, right? So we have first name, last name, but as you saw, we can just like use a break line as well if we wanted to, right? So that's about it. And we can continue adding other stuff. So I'm just going to copy this and go here. And then, I don't know, let's say password, right? And when I go password, I'm just going to do a break in here too. And when I go password, then I have to change the type to password, right? And I'm just going to change this to pass, this guy to pass, and I'm just going to use the same name for this guy as well. And now when I go here and you see, it's like a password because you chose type as password. Let me just like extend this guy so we can see the code. The characters are not shown to you, which is like a cool name. A cool thing to do, right? And the other thing that I also wanted to talk about, the placeholder thingy, right? So let's create another one. I'm just going to create another one with the break this time. So you don't have to type it. I can be lazy sometime. I'm just going to go like email address, right? And what did I mess up here? Or is it not showing up here? I don't know. But I'm just going to go email, email, yep, email, email. And then here, I want to go placeholder, right? And I'm going to give it a default value. So I'm just going to go Sam at, I don't know, gmail.com, for example, right? So there is an element here, right? You can see there is like a default value here. If I click and start typing, it's going to go away, right? Just as soon as that. And it says like, please include an @ in the email address, right? Because like that one is missing that. So this, because you use the type email here, it knows that it's an email and it's expecting to see like an @ sign, right? That's what it does. And that is why really important to choose the proper type for different inputs, right? That you're using. So we did talk about the name, the placeholder, the type, and everything else. You can like obviously play with this thing, and don't be shy to do that. Choose different types, right? For example, instead of email, use date or date and time, and start playing with that and see what's going to happen, right? It's a cool thing. It's a excuse me. It's cool to play with that and learn all about different features that the type attribute has to offer you. There are different things that like you can do to play with this thing. For example, you can limit the password length, right? It's easy. You can just like I can leave that to you honestly, like as a practice, or if you want, just like pause the video now and try to Google it and find it for yourself, and then unpause it. I'm gonna give you the solution now. Hopefully you found it by yourself. But obviously, like when I go here, my password, I just go max length equals, I don't know, like 10 characters. So if I go here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I try, and if I submit it, it's not gonna submit, right? Because it's more than the 10 character that I was expecting. I told it to get me. That's about it. This is everything that I wanted to tell you about the forums. And there is also like a Boolean thing that you can like after like when you're defining your input element, right? You can go here and say required. Then obviously like you cannot see the effect of any of these, just like the maximum length of the password and this required Boolean thingy that you put in here. So it just makes sure that like later on when you have a button and like you get the information, you want to submit it to somewhere, you want to process the information, you want to do whatever with that information. When you set it to required, you cannot leave it as blank. You've obviously have filled out forms before that like there are fields with star signs that says, okay, these are required fields. You have to fill them out. This is what they're going to use mostly for that purpose, right? So if, for example, first name is set to required, then I cannot leave it blank and submit the information. It's going to complain about it. And that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to tell you about the forms in HTML. In the next video, we will start with the CSS and see how we can use what we've learned so far and like make it pretty. Add some colors to it and, just make it more like a real website. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it and found it useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and so that you also won't miss the next videos. Thank you again. You guys have a good night or day, depending on like when you're watching this video. Take care. See you all in the next video. Bye-bye.